Welcome to TV Africa News. Hope you had a beautiful day. This is Africa Today. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nahawa Kajura, and in our top stories today. Exploit Dubai Expo to market Uganda produce. Soul Foundation gives back to mental patients at Butabika Hospital. And government to receive 647,000 doses of Moderna COVID doses today. Enough is enough. Lukaku calls out FIFA and UEFA over racism. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. And Africa Today starts with one of our top stories. Now, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has directed the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives to regularly provide market data to enable the government to advise the people on the available opportunities for their products worldwide. We have more on this report.
The president was recently meeting officials of the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Tourism and the Uganda Expo Coordination Committee ahead of the Dubai Expo in October. Uganda will join over 190 countries and international organizations to participate in Expo 2020 Dubai from 1st October 2021 to 31st March 2022 in Dubai, UAE, 12 months from the scheduled date due to COVID-19 pandemic. The Republic of Uganda is participating in this expo at the invitation of the government of UAE. The theme of Expo 2022 Dubai is Connecting Minds, Creating the Future, with three sub-themes of mobility, opportunity and sustainability. Uganda is participating under the opportunity sub-theme. The president singled out SimSim, whose total market size in UAE is US dollars 839 million, and yet our exports there are negligible. He also cited dairy milk, whose market size is US dollars 2.846 billion, but our exports are only US dollars 374 million, and bananas, whose market size is US dollars 664 million, but we have never attempted the market. Other products include mangoes, pineapples, beans, cocoa, tilapia, tea, coffee, and fruits and vegetables, among others. The president also directed the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to provide shillings 3 billion to finish the Uganda pavilion. According to the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Honorable Okello Oryem, the Dubai Expo organizers will mark the Uganda National Day on 3rd October, which aimed at promoting Uganda at the Expo. Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, will be decorated with Uganda national flags.
Thank you so much, our reporter. Now moving on in our top story, Soul Foundation on Saturday concluded a 6-week campaign named Butabika Soul Food Campaign under the theme Nutrition Therapy, which was aimed at supporting mental health patients at Butabika National Referral Mental Hospital. Our reporter Nalugo has more.
Soul Foundation, a non-profit organization in partnership with other private companies, have for the last 6 weeks been supporting Butabika Hospital through feeding patients with a nutritious diet which includes pineapples, oranges, cabbages, bananas, Irish potatoes, rice, beef, peanut butter, soya beans, etc. to help improve mental health of patients.
We have been for the last 6 weeks supporting the hospital in a campaign called Butabika Soul Food Campaign. The theme is nutrition therapy, and today marks the last day of that campaign, and how we are concluding this is with a cookout.
Geraldine Opoka, the director of Soul Foundation, urged Ugandans to look out for mental health patients and seek immediate help for them before the situation goes out of hand.
We ask that everybody pays special attention to mental health, pays special attention to those around us in the communities who may be struggling. Ladies and gentlemen, we know when somebody is struggling. We can see. The question is, what do we do? Can we seek help for that person early enough so that they do not have to be hospitalized? Can we seek help early enough for that person so that they do not have to be brought to hospital in ropes and chains?
Mental health is a person's health in regard to the emotional and psychological well-being. It can be improved through eating a well-nutritious diet to feed the brain, regular exercises, keeping in contact with friends, and so on. Nalgo Muyingo, Africa Today.
Well, thank you so much, reporter. Now moving on, the government chief advisor on vaccine access, Professor David Serada, has confirmed that a consignment of up to 647,080 doses of the American-made Moderna COVID-19 vaccines will arrive today. We have more on this report. Data collected by the World Health Organization indicate that 9 African countries, including South Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, have already reached this target. 3 others are on track, and 2 could achieve it if they increase the pace of vaccinations. In total, 42 of the 54 African countries are therefore at risk of not reaching the goal if the current rate of vaccine shipments and immunization continues. Mashidiso Maweti, World Health Organization's Africa Regional Director, in a weekly briefing said that vaccine hoarding has set Africa back and they urgently need more vaccines. According to World Health Organization, nearly 21 million doses of vaccine arrived in Africa in August through the COVAX mechanism, which aims to provide vaccines to the poorest countries, as many as in the previous 4 months. With those expected to be delivered in September, Africa could receive enough doses to reach the 10% target, according to the World Health Organization. But while many countries have been able to accelerate immunization with shipments in August, 26 countries have used less than half of their stockpiles of doses. Thank you so much, our reporter. Let's go for a quick break. We shall come back with our international news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In our international news today, soldiers who seized power in a military coup on Sunday in Guinea announced on state TV that President Alpha Condé has not been harmed. Now, a representative of a National Committee for Rally and Development said that Condé has access to health care and is in touch with his doctors. We have more.
The soldiers in the West African nation detained Condé after hours of heavy gunfire rang out near the presidential palace in the capital, then announced on state television that the government had been dissolved in an apparent coup d'etat. Condé's whereabouts had been unknown for hours after the intense fighting on Sunday in downtown Conakry, until a video emerged showing the 83-year-old leader tired and disheveled in military custody. In their statement, the junta gave no timeline for releasing him other than to say that everything will be fine, promising to issue a statement when the time comes. They announced plans to replace Guinea's governors and mayors with regional commanders. The CNRD said that a nationwide curfew was in effect from 8 p.m. local time until further notice, and said they had invited outgoing ministers and former presidents of institutions to a meeting tomorrow. However, they also said that declining this invitation would be considered a rebellion against the country's new military leaders. Condé, in power for more than a decade, had seen his popularity plummet since he sought a third term last year, saying that term limits did not apply to him.
Moving on in our international news, Tanzanian police has arrested several members of the country's main opposition, Chadema party, the latest crackdown on a group pushing for constitutional reform in the country. Now, it followed the detention of Chadema leader Freeman Mbowe on terrorism charges that his party has branded a bid by President Samia Suluhu Hassan's government to muzzle the opposition. Our reporter has more.
According to a statement on Saturday, police detained 9 party members and raided its offices in the northern lakeside town of Musoma to block a planned symposium by the youth wing on constitutional change, Chadema. Mbowe has been behind bars since July 21st, when he was arrested along with a number of other senior Chadema officials hours before they were to hold a similar forum on calls for a new constitution. The 59-year-old has been charged with terrorism, financing, and conspiracy in a case that the opposition says shows Hassan is continuing the oppressive rule of her late predecessor, John Magufuli. Referring to Saturday's arrests, Longinas Tibishibwam, police chief in the Mara region of which Musoma is the capital, said the force cannot allow such events to take place. Tibishibwam was quoted as saying by local media, the president has instructed that people should now focus on economic development and conferences will have to wait.
Moving on, volunteer fighters in Ethiopia are responding to a call by regional authorities in the Amhara region to take up arms against the forces of neighboring Tigray. Now, Ethiopia's federal government has been urging regional administrations to prepare to defend themselves as the Tigray conflict spreads. Take a look at the story.
In the city of Gonda in Amhara, a school closed for holidays served as a training center for hundreds of new volunteers. Their training started at 6 a.m. with recruits jogging around the city and doing aerobics. The recruits learned the art of camouflage and basic infantry skills, including weapons training. Instruction complete, they will go out of the city to a live firing range. The basic training lasts about 2 weeks. Upon graduation, a selected few will join the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, confronting the Tigray People Liberation Front, which the federal government terms as a terrorist organization. The majority of the militia will remain in reserve in their towns and villages, according to authorities, where both men and women are encouraged to join. Desi Ismao, a former police officer who is among those training the new recruits, said that he has helped train thousands of men and women to fight against the forces allied to the Tigray People's Liberation Front. Like much about the war, it is not clear how many people in Amhara have been killed, and claims by the warring sides cannot immediately be verified since each side accused the others of lying or carrying out atrocities. The Tigrayan forces say their offensive is an attempt to break the federal government's blockade of their region, which has a population of around 6 million people.
Now, the world's leading conservation congress opened on Friday with warnings that humanity must tackle the grave risks of biodiversity loss and climate change together. Now, the key message from the international unity of the conservation of nature is that disappearing species and the destructive of ecosystems are no less existential threats than global warming. We have more on this report.
French President Emmanuel Macron, in a speech at the opening ceremony in the French port city of Marseille, said that the battle for the climate against climate change is twinned with the battle to preserve and restore biodiversity. He warned that efforts to stem the losses of the world's wildlife had fallen behind. IUCN Chief Bruno Obele, in a speech before the Congress opened, said that we are facing huge challenges and seeing the climate changing and impacting hugely our societies. The meeting, delayed from 2020 by the pandemic, comes ahead of the crucial UN summits on climate, food systems, and biodiversity that could shape the planet's foreseeable future. In 2019, the UN's biodiversity experts warned that 1 million species are on the brink of extinction, raising the specter that the planet is on the verge of its 6th mass extinction event in 500 million years. The 9-day IUCN meeting will include an update on its red list of the threatened species, measuring how close animal and plant species are to vanish forever. Experts have assessed nearly 135,000 species over the last half-century, and nearly 28% are currently at risk of extinction, with habitat loss, overexploitation, and illegal trade driving the loss.
Thank you so much, our reporter. Let's go for a quick break. We shall come back with more news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In a business news today, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa on Friday said that the unrest in July in KwaZulu-Natal and parts of Gauteng had exposed social and economic inadequacies in the country. We have more.
Speaking during a question and answer session in Parliament on Friday, Ramaphosa said more work is needed to be done to prepare law enforcement officials to respond to such situations. He also urged South Africans to go out and get vaccinated in order to stop the spread of COVID-19 and help the country reach herd immunity. He dismissed the notion that the government's actions to impose restrictions were done to deprive citizens of their rights. Ramaphosa said refusal to vaccinate would not only put individuals at risk, but endanger the lives of others, lead to a rise in infections and harm the economy.
Away from business, let's turn your attention to our health news today. Our preliminary findings of the second annual Africa Youth Survey found out that the COVID-19 pandemic increased the already high level of unemployment among the group. Now, case in point is Tinashe Mapurunga, an intern at a leading bank in Zimbabwe, who appeared set to get a staff position as soon as he completed his college degree when the COVID-19 pandemic hit. Our reporter compiled this story.
Amid the lockdowns, the 24-year-old Tinashe Mapulanga was one of the first to be laid off, and he has no idea when he will be able to get his degree because of the frequent school closures. Mapulanga spends most of his time at home, tending a tiny vegetable garden that is the family main source of food. His mother ekes out a living traveling to South Africa to sell things like stone carving and brooms on the streets, a trade also badly hit by the pandemic. Mapulanga's situation might look dire, but he says he's concerned about some of the unemployed peers who have fallen into alcohol, drugs and prostitution. A survey of people aged 18 to 24 in 15 countries across Africa found that many others like Mapulanga are battling the economic downturn caused by COVID-19, losing jobs and seeing their education disrupted. Nearly 20% of the 4,500 respondents say they became unemployed because of the pandemic, and 37% were forced to stop or pause their education. Nearly 20% of the 4,500 respondents said they became unemployed because of the pandemic, and 37% were forced to stop their education. Another 8% saw their pay docked, 8% had to move back home, and 10% said had to care for family members, according to the survey, which was commissioned by the Johannesburg-based Ichkowitis Family Foundation. Batuli Kawala, reporting for TV Africa.
Well, thank you so much, reporter. In our sports news today, Belgium striker Romelu Lukaku has called for FIFA and UEFA to put an end to racism in football following the abuse England players suffered during their World Cup qualification win over Hungary on Thursday. We have more on this report.
Racist chants were directed at Raheem Sterling and Jude Bellingham during the England's 4-0 win in Budapest, where Hungary will have to play their next 2 games in the UEFA competition behind closed doors following racist and homophobic incidents during the Euro 2020. Romelu Lukaku said that they always talk about the racial issues, but a lot of stuff of discrimination is still happening in and around the football pitch, hoping for something to happen this time. Hungary were ordered to play their next UEFA home competition matches without supporters after incidents of racism and homophobia at the Euro 2020, with one of those games suspended for 2 years, but the ban did not come into effect for their qualifier against Gareth Southgate's side because it is a FIFA competition. Lack of unity from authorities meant 60,000 fans were at the Puskás Arena, where England were booed for taking the knee before the kick-off. Federation for International Football Association said the sanction applied only to games administered by UEFA and believes the European governing body could have made an approach if it wanted the ban to start on Thursday. The governing board announced on Friday afternoon that it has opened disciplinary proceedings in relation to what took place at the Puskás Arena on Thursday.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Now, before we end the bulletin, let's have a recap of our top stories. Exploit Dubai Expo to market Uganda produce. Soul Foundation gives back to mental patients at Butabika Hospital. And government to receive 647,000 doses of Moderna COVID doses today. Enough is enough. Lukaku calls out FIFA and UEFA over racism. Thank you so much for joining us from where we started from. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which will keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.